What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, it's not like the typical videos I have just because of the holiday week, a lot of stuff coming up here. I'm just going to go over the DraftKings page rather than the spreadsheets. Should have spreadsheets back for you guys next week, but for the rest of the weekend, we're just going to have these types of videos, but still going to break down the same. So, two games. And yeah, I don't think anybody expected the quarterbacks that we're going to have tomorrow in that we did. So the only quarterback that we expected in was Josh Allen. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert's out, so unfortunately we didn't get a Justin Herbert-Josh Allen showdown, which we haven't seen in a couple years. Joe Burrow and the Bengals against Kenny Pickett and the Steelers. Nope, you're getting Jake Browning against Mason Rudolph now. So let's get into it. So for quarterbacks, Josh Allen, 8,100. Yeah, definitely. I think the only quarterback on this slate worth really taking. Browning's another option as well at 6,100. He's just been putting up some really good fantasy point games. Now his price is getting higher, but with 3 straight 20 point performances with some good matchups, to be honest. And this one no different. And you can go back and look when they played Pittsburgh last. 19 for 26 touchdown, 12 fantasy points, so not anything crazy. And he's without Jamar Chase. I mean, Easton Stick, you could say yeah, because he had 20 points against Vegas, but Vegas also put up 63 points. So they were doing a lot of throwing. They still ran the ball more than they should have. But 2 sack fumbles gets you those minus points a pick. Had moments. Keenan Allen out, though. And Buffalo's defense looks good, in my opinion. They look good. So I'm just sticking with Josh Allen. He's the only one. If you wanted another one just for, I guess, ownership purposes, Mason Rudolph would be the next guy. But it's terrible. Pittsburgh quarterback's just not good. So to me, it's really Josh Allen or Browning. Stick's probably the last one. If Stick has a good game against Buffalo, I don't know what to do anymore. So let's go to running backs. Running backs, Austin Eckler, 7,200, the most expensive. Against Buffalo, yeah, I like it. Granted, his fantasy points aren't there for what he's done lately, but I think it's a really good bounce back opportunity against a Buffalo team that ranks 15th in rushing yards against. Eckler not running the ball good, but the work he receives in the receiving game is alike. But if you wanted to go James Cook, I don't have a problem with James Cook either. And another favorable matchup against Chargers at 6,900. He's been sneakily, I hate when I do that, sneakily having these really good games, like fantasy point wise. So at his price point in the low 6K, this one he's almost up 7K, but on this slate it makes sense. I mean, look at it. 16, 19, 16, 25, 39. So he's been putting up some real good sneaky games lately. At his price point, ever since, his big game last week where he scores 39, then it's like, okay, James Cook is their guy. So these are must-win games for Buffalo, so it's not like they're going to take the Chargers lightly. They need to win this game. They have to win this game. They have to win almost every game to be certain of a playoff spot. Joe Mixon, though, at 6,800, I really like. It's taking who are you not taking out of these top 3 between Eckler, Cook, and Mixon. And I like Mixon a lot. You can go and look at what he's done since Joe Burrow's pretty much been out, and he's gotten 3 games above 20 fantasy points, getting a decent amount of targets, but his touchdown upside is huge. If you go back and look at the other games without Jamar Chase, Cincinnati relies on the running back a lot, especially in the receiving game. So Joe Mixon at 6,800, I like here. You can go back and look, and against Pittsburgh, that's his worst performance, but only 8 carries at that too. Says that. But yeah, Joe Mixon I like, Austin Eckler I like, James Cook is probably 3rd for me. James Cook could easily be number 1. We'll see what that looks like come game time decision. And then the always fun picking a Pittsburgh running back, right? So Pittsburgh running backs, if they were combined, like if you put their stats combined of Jaylen Warren with 11.8 and Najee Harris still at this week 2.3, 13 points at 5.2 is good, right? That's good numbers for a running back. but they split a lot of work and it makes it challenging. So you could usually pick one. I think Warren is definitely pulling away now, but they're still giving Najee work, right? 12, 15, 16, 12, 12. And this is after them saying that they're going to give Warren more work. They're still giving Najee carries. So it's not like Warren's getting all the volume. He's not. They're splitting volume still. Warren's got that more upside, but Najee's got the volume. It's just what he does with the volume that makes him good or not. Sneakily, another one is Chase Brown here at 4,900 against Pittsburgh. Like I said, Cincinnati relies upon the running backs when Jamar Chase was out last time, which was last year, I believe. He missed 4 games, and the running backs were used. But Chase Brown in the last 3 games, 6.1, 19.5, and 8.1. The touchdown gets him to that 19.5. Otherwise, he's at 13. The long reception, the 54-yard touchdown reception, but he's still getting volume. 9, 8, 7 is his carries in the last 3 weeks. So 24 carries, averaging 8 a game, right? Is good. Plus 6 targets in the last 3, so that's 2 right there as well. Chase Brown is a good tournament play. I wouldn't recommend it for cash, definitely. But I think at a pay down, he's definitely there. Latavius Murray is another one at 4,600 of getting that red zone work, stealing a touchdown, getting you, honestly 7 points, somewhere around there, is there. And then Isaiah Spiller is kind of the look right now. They've given Josh Kelly chances. He keeps fumbling the ball. But 16 carries in a game where they were getting blown out, Isaiah Spiller got. So some names there definitely to watch for in the value range. As far as tournament, not really cash. Stephon Diggs for wide receiver 8,700. I think he's easily payable this week if you go look at, tight ends, defenses, running backs. Stephon Diggs is easy to get to this week at 8,700, and it's a really good matchup for him. And hopefully, I've said this countless times, hopefully a good bounce back spot for him. But you go and look at some of the teams he's faced recently, and they're not favorable matchups, right? Denver secondary, I like Denver secondary. I think they have a top 10 secondary. The Jets secondary, another top 10 secondary. Kansas City's defense, top 10 defense. Dallas's defense, top 10 defense. They've faced a lot of good defenses, especially those that play wide receiver well. So he's going to get volume eventually. It's going to come. They have to, Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen have to get a connection going down this stretch here. It's going to happen sooner or later. Otherwise, they're not going to be successful. And Stephon Diggs is in the spot this week to do it, right? You look at Gabe Davis and his volume he's gotten. Look at Gabe Davis. 0, 0, 25, 0, 9, 0, 23, 1, 4. It's got to be Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, right? But T. Higgins, 6,500, we already know Chase is out, so T. Higgins at 6,500 then steps into a huge role. He had some good games when Jamar Chase was out as well. Last week, T. Higgins put on a clinic. That was amazing. I think he's telling teams, right, like, Cincinnati better pay me, otherwise he's going to be a top name in free agency. I imagine he gets franchise tags, but that doesn't concern us now. Concerns is he's going to be the wide receiver 1. Had a really good connection with Browning, especially late in the game when it mattered. You go and look, guess who wasn't there against Pittsburgh last? It was T. Higgins. So, really like T. Higgins. You're telling me a wide receiver 1 for a team that throws the ball a lot is 6,500. There's a lot to like there. Gabe Davis, if you want to play him in tournament because he's going to be so low owned, go for it. That is a good leverage play, right? No one is going to play Gabe Davis. If there is Gabe Davis ownership, I am going to be so lost, right? And look, like Gabe Davis, we know what he's capable of. We all know that he's capable of these games. So if you're to tell me, hey, I'm going to play some Gabe Davis in tournaments, that's a great tournament play. That's exactly what you want in tournaments. Low ownership for a high upside guy. That's what Gabe Davis is, right? At 5,300, easily doable. easily doable for someone like Gabe Davis. I'm okay with that. In cash, it's very risky to take that risk that he's going to have that very high upside game, right? Against Chargers defense too, it's very doable. We just saw very doable, right? But Deontay Johnson, then the next receiver, 5,100 against Cincy. You can go back and look week 12 when he played, 9 points, 4 receptions, 50 yards, and I mean his volume has pretty much been consistent. I look at someone like Mason Rudolph to get Deontay Johnson quite a few targets though, especially if Cincy plays the way they've played and they've been very efficient offensively majority of the time. Deontay Johnson's a good name there. Josh Palmer, I mentioned, I like Josh Palmer. I think he's the wide receiver 1 now without Keenan Allen, and he's been having some good games, right? Since coming back, right, just plays Vegas. That's his first, Josh Palmer's first game back, right? And I played it. Told people, Josh Palmer, 4 for 4, 113 and a touchdown. He is another guy like Gabe Davis, a boomer bust. And with Keenan Allen out, Mike Williams out, Quentin Johnston not developing yet, year 1, and people are harping on him already, but year 1, Josh Palmer, though, moves in the wide receiver 1 mark, and rightfully so. I like Josh Palmer for a Chargers receiver. George Pickens, I'm going with Deontay Johnson. You look at what Pickens did against Cincinnati, right there with Johnson. The stuff that came out about George Pickens, I would rely a lot more on Deontay Johnson going forward. Tyler Boyd also moves up, right, in rankings and projections with Jamar Chase out. Going to be the wide receiver 2, although they haven't been relying on him as much as they have in the past, just because you have other guys on the team, especially tight ends, right? But you're seeing some of these other wide receivers getting targets. Not Trenton Irwin, of course. Charlie Jones, though, was one guy I remember seeing his name quite a bit last week, just getting snaps in once Chase went out. But yeah, they're not relying, like Tyler Boyd would probably be a guy that's getting around 7 to 8 targets without Jamar Chase. We kind of saw it when T. Higgins went out a little bit. But they're getting other guys including Chase Brown, the running back. So even tight end with Hudson, they're using tight ends more than they really have. So Tyler Boyd's there. He's definitely a tournament play, though. I'm not really looking at him in cash. Quentin Johnson, like I said, you can... People just harp on him too much, I think. He's a rookie. Putting up 10 straight plus fantasy point games the last 3 weeks against some fairly good defenses, I would say. Well, Denver, he gets saved by a touchdown against Vegas. But yeah, the only other guy I'm looking for down here is Jalen Guyton at 3,200, just because he's going to see the field. Not something that I really love to play, but at his price point in this slate, he's a guy I'm definitely worth punting. Shakir, you could say the name Shakir. I'm okay with it. The only thing that worries me is Dawson Knox is back, which means Kincaid kind of used more, would be my guess. So if they're running 2 tight end sets, Shakir's the odd man out. So, but yeah, tight end Kincaid against Chargers, great play if you can afford to pay up for Kincaid on this slate. Look, his numbers have been down too, right? Just 8, 7 since kind of where we saw him in this middle of the season type performance. But going forward with Dawson Knox back, that kind of helps Dalton Kincaid. We've seen the connection between Knox and Allen previously, but Kincaid had a good stretch where he seemed like easily the tight end 1. Pat Freiermuth, though, is kind of the tight end I'm looking at right now. Really good price point, 3,800. It's 3 to 4 range is kind of where I like my tight ends. I like punting at tight end. I just, unless I know a tight ends like Travis Kelce or Trey McBride or Sam Laporta to where they're the number 1 or number 2 option easy, I don't like paying up for tight ends. So Pat Freiermuth, though, 3,800. I called it when he came back, right? I got burnt the week before with 1.7. But then he helped me out with 24 the next week and helped me out a lot. This time, he's $900 more against the same team that he did that to. Cincinnati's just been getting burnt by tight ends all year. So Freiermuth, definitely a play for me. Tanner Hudson, another guy with Jamar Chase out, he definitely steps up too. At his price point, 3,600, he's a good stack if you wanted a double stack. Since he pass catchers, he's definitely there for you. And then the only other name I'm looking at is Dawson Knox, 2,700. Dawson Knox. Now, granted, you look at his numbers and they're not very impressive this season, but at his price point of 2,700, you don't need him to do a lot. If you wanted to pay down at Dawson Knox, just to show you an example of what it does for your lineup, you're at 5,500 for average. You put Dawson Knox in there, you're up almost 400. You go, oh, that's nothing. Let's get Firemouth, 200, right? So you're saving quite a bit. That's a decision of running back, right? Who can I get? Can I get Cook, Eckler? Can I get Cook, Mixon? That $400 does play a factor into it, right? So, Dawson Knox at 2,700. I think he's a fine play. And then defenses, I'm looking at the two middle, Buffalo Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers. Since he's dealing with some injuries here, I could see Pittsburgh taking the game. Just saying. But yeah, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, those are the two defenses I'm targeting. So hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you guys did, please leave a like and subscribe. If you guys are interested in joining us, that link will be in the description down below. And I will see you guys in the next one.